And that's what I went back to watching the special to that point, which was, man, we've been cool all these years making fun of black folk.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm Rick James, bitch, ha, you know?
Right.
Fuck your couch.
Yeah.
But then, like, okay, am I just being weird because it's trans people now? Am I okay to laugh at black folk?
No, and so
that was the question I asked myself, too, and that's the question you're asking people.
Chappelle
That was 4 times. Chappelle show,
Three or four,
Chappelle
yeah.
show. Ow! Woo! Yeah, yeah. Let's start the show. It's there.
It's great.
And so with that little interlude,
Right.
we know Dave Chappelle,
Of course.
one of the finest comedians of our time.
Yeah.
Every
which even after this special to me has not changed.
well,
Because I'm not going to discredit his whole past work.
Whoa.
Oh,
Who said we were going to do that? Jesus.
He did say that people were upset to him in his inbox about this special. You said lots of people. I mean, I was, but
I mean, no. Okay, so look, I'm a big, like much like other people, I'm a big Dave Chappelle fan.
Right.
So usually when someone goes through your special, always waiting for my opinion. I was like, I haven't watched this shit yet. I got a lot of angry messages. I was like, I ain't watched it yet, nor did I endorse it. I was like, I was on my social media like, yeah, Dave Chappelle,
Dave
y'all are all
Chappelle.
incels. Like, that's not what I'm saying, bro. Like, I haven't watched it yet. I watched it now.
right. And I watched it. JJ watched the problematic parts. Him and watched the last half hour. He got here early on time. So we've all seen the special, The Closer.
Yeah.
Dave Chappelle, and it's his final contractual obligated special for Netflix.
Yeah.
And he indicated that it was going to be his last special. And he figured, oh man, I'm going to get a lot of backlash for this. A lot of my specials have been a little spicy, the more recent run after his return about 4 or 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And this is from NPR, man, right off the bat. For Dave Chappelle, punchlines are dares. His new special, The Closer, goes too far, Tommy. Does it? Here's the thing. Dave Chappelle's in hot water because he made a lot of trans jokes. He's been in hot water for making trans jokes over the course of these last 3-4 specials that he's had.
Right.
And he has an hour special, and he spends about 30 minutes of it. I cut to 30 minutes to show JJ the last half, and half of it was trans jokes, if not a majority of this episode or of this whole special.
Yeah, like half of it.
Like more than half.
Yeah.
And people are losing their shit. Transgender people are upset.
Yeah.
In my Twitter comments, I put my opinion out there, and a transgender friend of mine was like, "You invalidated my entire existence. Fuck him, forever."
Right.
A lot of people were like that. Fuck him, forever. And this is not a whole review of the whole special,
Just the controversial part.
but I gotta say, I watched it again with JJ, and here's the weird part. This is the weirdest thing I've felt in a long time. Even with you, JJ, right now, one of my great friends here.
Right.
I was gonna show him the Dave Chappelle segment, and I felt nervous of whether I should show him or not.
Why?
Because you know how you show people something that you like? Here is a movie I like. Here's a Halloween movie I enjoy. I hope you enjoy it.
Right.
And if they don't like it, then you kind of feel bad, right? You're like, oh
Little
no.
bit,
So I go, JJ, we need to watch this for the show. Is he gonna like it? I had that weird thing because I was listening to it again the second time, and I'm not sure if I did. And I realized that there's gold in them there hills in the comedy special. The special, he's still very funny.
No, like, it's the trickiest part is that I will admit that there was some timing and delivery that even if the content I was involved, I was like, damn, that's just a really good structured,
Right,
like,
yeah.
funny, like,
Right.
So it's like, yeah. So I was like, yeah, it was like I laughed because I was like, yeah, maybe the content was not in the latter portion, but in the starting part, I definitely was more noticeable of like, oh yeah, his timing's still on point. Like he's still funny.
Right. His structure and everything is still masterful, and his structure of the jokes.
Yeah,
Here's the part, Tommy. Let me lead you into what I was thinking, because Tommy and I think are on the same frequency, and I put it as this analogy. This is my opinion of the special. It's like watching your favorite all-star athlete trying to throw out a ninth inning.
Have a shitty game.
No, not even a shitty game.
Okay.
It looks like his arm's
shitty
going.
second half, yeah.
No, it looks like he's in the ninth inning. He can't get that 90-mile-per-hour fastball that he wants.
what it's like.
He can't get that curveball that he wants.
It's a good analogy.
And he's just trying, and you know that he might be done. That's how I felt about it. Because the technique is still there.
Yeah.
The respect is still there.
Chappelleisms and
Right.
all that good
the,
stuff.
the same going to the edge and to the line is
Right.
there.
Which he was at the edge and line perfectly.
Right. Up until
And then
now.
then he just took a turn, and it was a weird turn.
Right. And the
Yeah,
thing that
it's-
he's under fire for are the transgender jokes that he's
Right.
made. He calls himself a TERF, was it trans exclusionary radical feminist?
Yeah.
And I didn't know that what that term was until about 3 months ago,
Yeah.
where someone made a joke and he's like, oh, I thought you were some sort of TERF or something. I'm like, what the fuck? No, like trans women are women. That's my opinion. Whatever.
Right.
And it's okay for him to have a different opinion. I don't like it, and I think it's hateful.
Everyone has opinions. That
Right.
Still, people that think black people shouldn't exist. So,
Exactly. Right. And
It's a
when it comes to
stupid fucking
stand-
opinion, but it's your opinion.
And when it comes to stand-up comedy, you can say whatever the fuck you want in a stand-up comedy
As long
form.
as it's funny,
But it has to be funny.
it has to be funny.
And honestly,
It has to be so. The more raunchy the joke, it's literally ratio. The more cray your joke goes, the harder laugh or like the harder reaction you have to be getting on the delivery.
right.
So like a
It's like you're placing bets.
yeah, like it's literally
Yeah.
you're placing bets, right?
Right.
So like I think that, there's a lot of times where you can be like, cool, like I'm not gonna get too crazy, but then you probably are gonna get like chuckles and not full laughs.
Right.
The reason why Chappelle always works is because he usually makes big bets and then you'll follow through and you'll be like the delivery, the execution, and the joke itself is funny.
Yeah.
Right.
And
It
that's
all
why
works together.
it's tricky because like the whole problem is for a lot of times I was like the execution, I can see like there's gold.
right, there's gold
There's
there.
still very high quality jokes. Man, some of that wording's rough. some of that positioning,
Yeah.
some of because I was
Yeah.
like,
So-
ooh, this should have got just one more final pass.
Eek, yeah.
Right.
Just one pass.
Now,
There was a
JJ,
lot
just
of
having
that.
seen the last part, what did you feel just initially about it? I mean, you were laughing pretty consistently, more than I was out loud.
Yeah.
But I have an opinion that's different. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you mentioned that like this is the athlete like starting to lose it.
Uh huh.
If I'm being 100% honest with myself, from that first special, I was like, this isn't the same.
The bird
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you're
for
right.
me, it was like a long time coming. So this one was like, I don't agree with a lot of what he said.
Right.
Fine. But like TJ was saying, the execution, the lead up still had some comedy and it still had some laughs, some solid hearty laughs from me.
Right.
But ultimately, I was like, yeah, like this is more of the last special.
It's more of the last three specials.
So,
Yeah.
okay, there was because I think I was in I think the first one was the one that I was like, but then there was one that I was like, okay, this one I like. This one's great. I think
right.
it was the one where it's the one where he makes the
Was it Juicy Smoulier or the Cosby one? Cosby one was before where the chocolate ice cream
no,
reference.
he's the one. It's the one where he makes the child support joke.
Child support. Oh shit! Which one's that one?
Where he's like, yeah, where he's like, yeah, you know what? He's like, I have unequivocal. It's women's unequivocal right to whether or not they want to have a baby.
That's right. Yeah.
But it's also a guy's right if I don't want to pay. Like that
Yeah.
one. Yeah. Like
yeah. That was that's one of the middle ones, right? And they're all kind of
like that one. That one
Yeah.
was was really good to me.
right.
It's like at all those you can chop them together, like and just take the
And
best
make
of
a
all
good
of
one.
them.
Yeah.
One good
Make a
special,
really,
yeah.
really-
one solid.
Right. You
day
can
for
make
Not
a-
to say that they were all bad.
Right. See, my thing is, like the past few years, I've noticed him just stop kind of telling jokes altogether. He's just more of a
Storyteller.
social
'Cause-
commentator and storyteller, which I'm like, I like this.
Right.
Because it seemed like, yes, he knew that, like, all right, my shit's not where it once was, you know? But
And stand up as a
but what I-
form is not the
Yeah,
same.
I
Yeah.
think it's more so. It's because of the
It's a
format.
different- yeah.
And he
Right.
wasn't well. And here's, ooh, I'm gonna
It
say
worked
for
a
my
lot
point.
better for
Yeah.
me.
No, it's fine.
Please, go
But so going to that, like I'm trying to look at the trans jokes and look at them as a joke as a joke is
same.
set up and premise because the thing is, over COVID,
I've heard offensive fucking jokes about all kinds of people.
Right.
But when they're funny and it makes that person whatever group you're making fun of
Right.
laugh
Right.
whether they want to or not.
And
that's
so-
the job has been done.
right. And so
you
there's
know?
a couple things I've been studying over the course of COVID. I listened to Mike Birbiglia's podcast called Working It Out, where he actually tells you how he's working a joke out word for word, where the story comes from, and things that could work with it and without it. Conan O'Brien's podcast, he talks about comedy form and things like that, and writers of SNL and stuff like that. So I've been trying to study the form. Colbert. Anybody have any objections with that motherfucker?
Oh,
Okay.
objections, yes.
Yes.
Fuck, no, but a lot of his stuff is about method improvisation and stuff right there. So I'm watching this special and I'm like, where are the good jokes where you're making fun of trans people, you're making fun of black people, you're making fun of white people, and the trans ones in specifically.
Yeah.
Because it's
different.
one thing to punch down, which is his whole premise is you're not supposed to punch down.
The whole thing was weird. But yeah, go
Right. You're not supposed to punch down, but you can make jokes about everybody and it's got to be funny so everybody can laugh. So there was a joke where he was, and I hate taking jokes out of context, but this one is a very short one and it works perfectly to make fun of the people he needs to make fun of without hurting anybody's feelings for real.
Right.
And they're in there a lot. This one was, he goes, "Man, transgender people hate me." And I was walking down the street one time and one guy said, "Hey, we better watch out, Dave. They're coming to get you." And he's like, "Wait, how many theys?"
Yeah.
Right.
I laughed at that.
You go,
I laughed
singular
at that,
they or multiple theys. Right. And we had just had a conversation on Sunday.
That was funny.
With your girlfriend, I always say ex-girlfriend.
She's still there?
Yeah, she's still there. No, with
You know
your
something he doesn't know?
no, of your girlfriend, where she was talking about they, them, trying to explain it to Marcos, right? And so when he was like, "Yeah, how many theys?" Because he said they're out to get you.
Singular they?
There's a singular there or multiple theys.
That's
That's
that
a
was funny.
That was
That's
funny.
a funny
premise
Yeah.
joke.
Perfect Chappelle
because
joke,
like,
yeah.
perfect Chappelle joke because it's misunderstanding what
It's
it truly
smart,
is.
yeah.
It's knowing exactly what it is
Right.
and knowing to subvert both of those things. So if a person who identifies as they hears that joke, already doesn't like him, it says they're after me.
Yeah.
It's correct the way he's using the usage.
Right.
So it's multi levels.
it's a
It got a good
smart,
laugh in the
funny
special. It's
joke.
there.
Yes.
There's another one I'm gonna just do vaguely after that. Was it? That's not blood. It's beet juice.
Yeah, that one.
yeah.
So when he was like impossible.
He was talking about transgender
was
vaginas not
funny.
being proper biological vaginas and saying they may not got actual pussy, but they got impossible pussy.
Yeah.
Or the
Couldn't tell the difference.
couldn't tell the
But-
difference. He goes, but the blood is beet juice. So that's where it was
So that's
really
so
weird.
Yeah, that's the line, right?
But is it though? Because ultimately the joke is at the expense of trans
Yes.
people, right?
No, and that's what I was saying. Like, I think that with that one, that's where he was on that, like, where he could have gone to. Like,
Well, that
not to say that he did, not to say he did or didn't. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
in comparison to the last one was in a catalyst of like, because of the way it was structured, I don't think that was at the line. I think that was just a really good.
That was a solid joke.
No,
yeah.
I think
This one was the one where I was like, yeah.
This one's debatable.
right.
Yeah.
Well, so I think the
Actually,
punchline.
it's not.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say
It's not debatable,
yeah.
but-
Here's what I'm saying. The punchline was on the line. The setup wasn't. It was over.
Right.
I think he had already crossed the line, and that was a great punchline, but the punchline was in play, whereas the premise itself, where it's, I'm a TERF, I don't think that trans women are women, and he's making a political statement, even though, it's comedy. It's a statement that he's making of his personal beliefs, and you're allowed to do that on comedy. But like you
have
said,
to make that funny.
huh?
You have to
But
make
you
that
have to make that funny, and
Yeah.
two, that's what conservative comedians do.
What point did I bring?
Yeah, that's what Tommy brought up in our
Yeah.
text chat. Like we were excited to talk about this because
Yeah,
you got to be funny.
gotta be.
You have to be funny.
Who are the most unfunny comedians?
And the most unfunny comedians historically are conservative comedians.
Yeah.
It's just a fact.
Yeah, it does not
Uh,
work.
Right. And I'm not saying he's a conservative because I think at his heart of hearts, he really loves trans people. I think he supports the community.
He talked about his friend, which
But he talks
was a
about his friend,
bizarre
which
thing
and his
over
friends
into-
wouldn't be offended by it, but it's not the point.
That's what I'm saying.
And
That's-
because-
you know what that was? That's I have a black friend.
I have exactly
That's what the fuck that was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't care if she would be offended or her family's offended by it. I don't care. I think that the people who are alive around trying to fight this fight of trans rights and things like that,
Yeah.
I don't think it helps.
Does
and
not
if it was
help.
funny, here's how it would work. If he wanted his aim
Yeah.
to be, which was if it was funny, it would humanize the trans experience and help people relate to them a little bit more.
No, I think so.
If that was the goal
That
that,
was
I
the
think
goal,
he
which
had in his head.
It couldn't have been though. If that was he had to see himself failing at that, right?
I have a tricky. So okay, let me just go ahead.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Let me just knock this out. Look, so I dislike this special, but I don't like hate him or hate it.
I don't hate him. I don't know if I hate it as much as just boring, and then
This
it
is
could
just not
hurt
good.
people's feelings.
Yeah, like-
Yeah, I don't know if I hate it because I've only seen half of it.
Right.
Can I make just a general PSA and something I really hate? Watch the special before making a commentary.
Yeah,
Of course,
you can
which
always
is
do
why I
that,
wanted
yeah.
everyone to watch it.
Because you cannot be making a commentary on something if you take it.
Never.
Jokes are horrendous out of context.
Right.
None of those jokes would fly out of context.
Jokes
Delivery
written
is
down.
important,
No, jokes
yeah.
written down are
Down-
awful.
Yeah, like
Yes.
like you can't do that. So just watch the special, create your own opinion, and if you feel how you feel, 100%.
Yeah.
Okay. But my whole thing was, and I get what you're also meaning because I have this. I've had this feeling from the sense of the way that he's approaching, and he's like, hey, you know what? My whole thing is like he's equalizing. He's like, there's no group I won't touch because everybody, jokes bring people together. Every group is free targeted.
Right.
I think the more problem here is the balance of which communities he's addressing, right? And
Right,
for time
yes.
frames.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
a lot of the times, because the one defense I'll give Dave Chappelle, and I'll give him this hard, is that he did like a bunch of specials, a bunch of time, a bunch of energy at the expense or leveraging the African American community, and it was profited from and things of that nature, right? So where like
With his Chappelle show.
with his Chappelle show, with even his comics, like a lot of the jokes that a lot of people vibed with were in like reference to a lot of black people, and it only worked because he was black, right?
And at sometimes the expense of.
Sometimes
right.
the expense
Because
of
not
black,
everybody got the joke.
because not everybody
Right.
understood the joke, right?
And that's what I went back to watching the special to that point, which was, man, we've been cool all these years making fun of black folk.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm Rick James, bitch, ha, you know?
Right.
Fuck your couch.
Yeah.
But then, like, okay, am I just being weird because it's trans people now? Am I okay to laugh at black
No,
folk?
and so-
that was the question I asked myself, too, and that's the question you're asking people.
So
to
that's why I was like, yeah, like, is it okay just because like it's a different group
Right.
that is harder to that's harder to navigate, because I don't like the realm where you can't make jokes on a group that you don't identify with.
Right.
I'm cool. Like I'm cool with white comedians making black jokes if it's funny. I'm cool with black comedians making white jokes. They actually do all the time.
Right, right.
Like,
Bread and butter. Yeah.
comedians being able to branch across different communities is super important. But where it gets a little more complex and the complexities lie is when you get into this area. with
Marginalized groups.
Marginalized groups, and but marginalized groups in particular to the LGBTQ community
Right.
and trans community. Gay. So he had a section at the start that were in reference to gay jokes.
Yep.
And you could tell that in terms of their craft, in terms of the way that he addressed it, it was a lot more clean
Right.
than when you got to the trans jokes.
Yeah.
But it's also because he spent quite a bit of time getting to that point.
Right.
Trans is not a newer thing, but it's always an area that isn't joke.
It's a newer acceptable.
It's a newer
in the-
exception
in the context.
in the pantheon,
Yeah, in the
right?
pantheon, yeah.
And so whenever you're addressing those things, right, I think he was very sloppy. I think there's a lot of points that were at the expense of the community, or not necessarily like completely, but there are plenty that were, but not everything was completely at the expense.
Right.
And I'm not justifying him at all. Just like I think I have to keep on saying that.
We
because
like the
someone will-
trans folks.
Like,
Get
I'm
your
not-
trans t-shirt at mexmerch.com.
Don't sell shit. Damn it.
because I'm not because I'm not part of that.
Come get your pride.
Because I'm not part of that group, right? So I'm not trying to I don't know what
Right,
would
yeah,
impact,
yeah.
what would impact and hurt them.
Right.
But what I can say is that it's just, I guess it's this weird area where I think that it requires a lot more nuance and a lot more well planned out execution if you're going to do that. That's terrible.
Sorry, I just love
That's terrible.
I'm just fucking with you because you were being so serious. I'm sorry.
It's about as subtle as a brick.
Sorry.
And so you could tell that this was because the other part was it didn't feel. I know it inherently it wasn't attacky, but I was like, because you spent a third chunk of it on there, that's what just amplified it.
Right.
Defensive was
Yeah,
what.
it was very defensive because you could
Yeah,
tell
that's-
that he's sick of this backlash.
Yeah.
So instead of going let me, not, cause he was like, let me not do the jokes. He doubled down, which wasn't
Right.
the best way.
Right. And here's where my
That's-
final criticism
yeah,
of
we're
it in
just-
the midst of that.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Which is, and this was telling you about why it felt so forced and so defensive. Okay, Dave Chappelle used to make jokes and let them sit. He would make jokes. He'd have a white white supremacist, and you'd have to watch it. And then he'd go, all right, guys, next to commercial break. That was his whole show. He would do something shocking and move right along. If you got it, you're on board. You got it, you're good. I wrote this well enough. We're done, right? The baby in the strip club, in the selling drugs in the strip club. That stand-up comedy. He made that premise. Hey, baby, get inside. I'm selling drugs. Right?
No, I mean he even when he was I say some shit off the wall, but then I listen to the baby's comments
Yeah, exactly.
I can't help him there.
I go. He's like, I go hard in the paint, but goddamn.
You can't do that.
But this was the part where I realized, oh no, he's not confident in these jokes, and this is how you see Superman bleed for the first time because he kept saying, "Oh, I'm going all the way. Oh, I'm being real with you. Oh, he peppered that in so often, more often than he's ever peppered it in.
It didn't feel like Dave Chappelle. That was the thing with me.
No, because Dave Chappelle would say those things without hesitation.
You're right. No, I know Dave Chappelle specials
Right.
like the back of my hand.
And there was the one where he did the trans one where he says he's a TERF, and then everyone's like, and then he goes, "Oh, I'm in trouble." Let it sit. Let people realize that you're in trouble. Let people feel what they feel, and don't say, "Oh, it's about me and the consequences of my jokes," because it's not a funny one, or it's not as good, or it's not as sharp. If it was a sharp, funny joke, who would be laughing the hardest? The fucking trans people. You know how comedy works? Dumb, weird example, but apparently it's super popular. The Book of Mormon, the musical, fucking packed with Mormons.
Yeah.
It shits on the Mormons for 2 hours that play. But the Mormons love it because they're shitting on them in a way that understands them, specific to them, and in a way that is unique to them, that they'll get things because they, Matt Parker and Trace, mix them up, Trey Stone, I'll fix it. They cared about it enough because they were fascinated by it.
Yeah.
And Dave Chappelle, I don't know if he's fascinated. I mean, he might be fascinated or curious, but he has no real love for them as a community. I think he has love for the person.
That one person, yeah.
Yeah, I think that. So that's
Daphne.
I think that's where you can tell, because I feel like in terms of the pantheon of Dave Chappelle's comedy, right? I think that he genuinely has representation of people and friends in most groups. I think trans is probably the one where he doesn't.
Right.
That's far.
I think that
Yeah.
he just doesn't like get that aspect, which is why these jokes are like, yeah, dude, like,
and
you don't belong in this wheelhouse.
You're shooting kind of blank here because
it's clear you don't understand. Like that's
no,
what
and
it seems
that's what
like.
made Chappelle's show so perfect.
Yeah, you
was
understand black people. He spoke so eloquently every time he does. When he was just doing his, speaking / comedy specials, so eloquently when he tells his stories, when it's in regards to black people's rights. And us making it.
No, I feel like he does that. I feel like he does that in I feel like he's gotten comfortable in doing that in a lot of other demographics too.
Well, I mean, I don't hear him talk about many others.
Right, but that was the thing that made Chappelle's show so perfect, was that because he loved black people and he loved the experience.
Fine,
and then he had another person.
Job all in itself.
No, and then he had another person, Neil Brennan, who I've started to follow more, who's
actually hilarious.
Wait, no,
his specials of way.
His special, and I might go to New York to go see his new one off Broadway like this next month, just because I want to see it. But him loving black people also, he'll say, I love black people more than white people. He'll say it on his podcast. Right. With them two together writing those things, it was out of a place of love. So when you get black white supremacists, when you get the milkman guy, right?
It's funny, but it has a point.
It has a point. It always did.
And when you get that point, you get it.
And I don't think, and like you said, he doesn't have any relation to the community other than attack.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
Right, and so now he's playing defense, but I don't want to watch him play defense. I want to watch him play offense.
Uncomfortable to watch, man.
Right.
Like, I don't know. To me, he was lazy. It was very lazy. And he was in a place.
Lazy.
And yeah, he went to these weird kind of defensive things of almost reinforcing his confidence himself.
He did 2 AIDS jokes back to back that AIDS jokes. Remember those?
Yeah.
I'm the Magic Johnson of coronavirus. Okay.
I didn't dislike that one.
No, they're funny jokes, but they're simple. I can make that joke.
Well, I mean, I don't care. It's simple is fine. You need simple ones to pepper.
No, because that was a really quick. He was like, yeah, I don't qualify me, because he was like, yeah, I got corona, I was fine,
right,
and he was making fun,
he's making fun of the whole situation. And
it wasn't ticky tacky. It wasn't because corona I know how it feels like. Oh, it's a simple joke, but it's an area that is controversial. And he's and he wasn't, and you could tell that he was framing it in a way he was like, don't not get the vaccine. He was just like, because I'm rich and famous, and then you linked it back to being
poor.
So I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
In terms of a construction, you need some, like you're saying, you need simple ones that you're not thinking about.
Right. And that's Dave Chappelle's bread and butter. Premise, diversion, setup.
Right. That's fine.
Right.
But that shit it just went off the rails to me.
Right.
It really went off the rails, and it was like. He's sitting here, he's like, I'm the GOAT, and, talking about when he left the money from Comedy Central, went to Africa. I'm like, dude, all right, cool, you did it.
Right.
What, do you want a medal for that shit? Like, goddamn.
Right.